Ladies and gentlemen, the compression across the Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and S&P 500 charts continues by the day, and it's getting to a point of unsustainability. This move, this next big macro move that people have talked about for 3 months now, is coming very shortly. We'll be making a decision here very shortly. Does Bitcoin go downwards? Does Bitcoin validate this potential double top formation, or does it salvage the situation and swing back to the upside of the range? The answer to that question, we will know by the end of February, and specifically by a certain date, which I'm going to share with you in this video. And I've used the Pi cycle indicator on Bitcoin, the indicator that marks historically the tops and bottoms on Bitcoin to a very high degree of accuracy. I've used that indicator to help narrow down the date range perspective here of when this next move will occur. So we've got this Bitcoin range. You can see it right here on the screen. We're bouncing up and down between these two lines, which stem backwards from prior cycles, from 2017 with that resistance line, and from 2021 with that support line. We know there's the Bitcoin range there. Not much compression within that range because the range is actually expanding. But within the range itself, we have other indicators like the Gaussian channel center line, which Bitcoin is clearly rubbing up against right now as a major resistance zone. And you can see the gap between the bottom of the macro range and the Gaussian channel center line is not very big at all. This is compression. It's not just Bitcoin saying it. We look at the Ethereum chart right here. You can see at this pink circle a major dividing level between macro bullishness and macro bearishness. Ethereum pressing up against that major circle, looking to either reject or bounce back above it. We can't be waiting too long. That decision has to come very soon. Exact same story with the total 3 cryptocurrency market cap. We've got a major resistance zone from 2021 and a major support zone from earlier last year. We're in the middle there. We can't really be consolidating for much longer without doing major damage. The next move comes soon, and the same thing on the S&P 500. 3 months of consecutive horizontal resistance there at the all-time high region. Again, cannot really be compressing much longer. It's going to come to an end. We're going to see a decision soon, and I know exactly when we'll see it. When we will see it by now using the Bitcoin chart. So stay tuned, let's get into it. The reality in the cryptocurrency market is, unfortunately, if you want a good exchange, you have very limited amount of options. And you do want a good exchange because you're literally keeping your money on the exchange and hoping they don't get hacked, your money doesn't get stolen or something happens with the exchange, for example. And on top of that, even if there's no hack, you're paying them money in fees every time you make a trade. So you're paying them potentially thousands of dollars, depending on how big your portfolio is. So get on a good exchange. That's why I've picked these two for you. Bitunix and BitGet. Now, I'm not saying you have to use them. I'm just offering them to you here. Bitunix is global non-KYC. It's never been hacked before. It's got hundreds of trading pairs. It's a very, very wide use case right there. Very, very reliable and cheap. BitGet, it's more reliable. It's been around for years at this point, and it's top 5 in trading volume consistently out of all the exchanges. It's a top global exchange, guys. So if you're interested in either of these, use my referral link down below, and you'll get a 15% trading fee discount exclusively with that referral link attached to your account for life on either of them. That's 15% off fees attached to your account for life on Bitunix or BitGet. Use my links down below if you're interested. I appreciate that. Right, so let's just very much highlight the situation here as we did in the introduction. Very intense compression. Compression leads to a move. The move could be downside or upside. If it's downside, we validate a double top formation and severely damage the macro structure and potentially enter a bear market. If it's upside, we salvage the situation, swing back to the top of the range, and potentially start the next macro move. That's the situation Bitcoin is faced with. So a very, very important situation. And of course, we know it's very, very important because it's not just Bitcoin doing it. It's the entire cryptocurrency market, as we mentioned in the introduction. And on top of that, it's the S&P 500. So this is a market-wide decision caused potentially, in that case, by macroeconomic events and macroeconomic uncertainty. So it's not just Bitcoin here. It's actually markets in general, which adds to the scale of it. Now, when will this move happen by? When will we see the decision by? Well, we kind of know. We kind of know based on new information and old information. For example, we know that S&P 500 has a horizontal consolidation range, horizontal resistance zone, and an uptrending support zone right here in yellow. This triangle comes to an apex at around the 7th of March, and therefore the S&P 500 will be moving by the 7th of March, and the market likely will be as well. We know on Bitcoin charts, if we take the Gaussian channel center line as the main indicator of resistance, and we take, for example, this extremely massive line on Bitcoin, which stems backwards from 2011, has been very influential on every single retest it's had in the past. You can just look at the screen, look at the interactions here, right? This isn't a coincidence, this isn't a fake line, it's very, very real. If you doubt its legitimacy, go ahead and draw it up for yourself and just see how influential these interactions have been on shorter time frames and larger time frames. That line right there, if we go to the daily chart, lined up with the Gaussian channel, gives us a pretty good idea of what that compression looks like and when it will kind of reach an apex, when we'll see the next move buy. So we bring up the daily chart Gaussian channel with that yellow resistance line. We assume the Gaussian channel continues its current trajectory, and we reach an apex around early April. So we have the S&P 500 saying around the 7th of March. We have the Bitcoin chart as we knew it yesterday saying around April 10th. And we have the Bitcoin momentum on the daily chart showing us a bit more of a precise range. We look at the momentum indicator of the RSI and we see this triangle formation and that reaches an apex at the end of March. So that's not really very helpful, right? Because the end of March is a long time away. That means we'll see a whole nother month potentially of compression and consolidation, which seems very unlikely. So how do we narrow this down further? Well, we can narrow it down further by focusing on the S&P 500, which says early April, so about 3 weeks away. Or we can narrow it down even further than that, and this is the point of the video, by focusing on the pi cycle indicator, which is not what you'd be expecting to focus on in this kind of analysis. So what is the pi cycle indicator? Well, if we look at the Bitcoin weekly chart, right, we bring up the pi cycle indicator, what we notice is this indicator has been incredibly influential in marking Bitcoin tops and bottoms historically speaking. It marked the top on Bitcoin back here in 2013 on both peaks. It marked the bottom in 2015, the top in 2017, the bottom in 2018. It didn't quite mark the top in 2021 due to that major structural deviation in the middle of the cycle, but it got very close to doing so. It actually marked the first peak of 2021. So it wasn't a total failure, but it also wasn't a total success. And due to the failure in 2021 and the structural deviation in 2021, it was kind of thrown off a little bit since it's based on moving averages, and it didn't quite mark the bottom in 2022 either. So it's kind of failed in the last cycle, and this has led a lot of analysts to stop looking at it. They've kind of just ignored it now since it failed a little bit in the last cycle. It still kind of worked, like it marked the first top and it vaguely marked the bottom. It was about $5,000 off. But a lot of analysts just look at that and they think, okay, it's not valid anymore. And look, maybe fair enough, perhaps fair enough, but I look at this situation and I think, okay, 2021 was a weird cycle. There was a lot of structural deviations. Perhaps it will work again this time. It's worth at least looking at. And if we look at actually the 73K high we saw here back in March 2024, which we saw an 8-month consolidation from, what is it that marked that high, guys? It was the pi cycle top line. So it's not like this is a totally irrelevant indicator. It actually seems to be quite useful. And if we look at the center line of the indicator in yellow, what we see right now on the daily chart is that center line is actually acting as the current Bitcoin support. Look at this chart right here. It is acting as the current Bitcoin support line right now. So you could actually make an argument that the Gaussian channel center line is Bitcoin's current resistance, and the pi cycle center line is Bitcoin's current short-term support. If you're making that argument, which I don't know how valid it is, but it's certainly an argument you can make. It's not exactly wrong. We have compression here between the Gaussian channel, right, and that center line of the pi cycle, and we can be reaching an apex by the end of February, around the 3rd day of March, and so obviously we can't compress that tight, and so it would be by the end of February, right? If that is the case, we will be seeing a move on Bitcoin by the end of February. And to be honest, if we're taking the S&P 500 seriously, which we should be taking seriously, because obviously this compression and this consolidation across markets right now is based on macroeconomic factors. What is most reactive to macroeconomic factors and suggestive of them? Well, it's the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 perhaps should be taken the most seriously right now. That, of course, is reaching an apex around March 7th. But if we're being very realistic, it's not going to go all the way to the end of that triangle, isn't it? Obviously, it's going to move and see volatility. It's more likely we see the apex by about the 28th of February, which is the last day of February, in which case the apex of the S&P 500 lines up almost perfectly with the potential apex of the Bitcoin chart right now, as shown by the pi cycle indicator. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is perfect analysis. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we can't go down and invalidate it. But I'm saying this, it looks as though right now, all of the charts are kind of saying that, okay, we're certainly going to be seeing a move by the end of March, but it's actually very, very likely we see a move by the end of February, right? And that is not very long away. That's going to be about a week away at this point. And that means we're going to be seeing a move by the end of February, right? Not all the way at to the edge of February. It could be even before then. It could be within days from now. And the Bollinger Bands, I mean, they're supporting that theory pretty heavily. We look at the Bollinger Bands, as I said at the start of the video, these Bollinger Bands are compressing, right? They're very, very ready to move. So I would actually suggest that Bitcoin is likely to move. It's likely to see its decision. It's likely to either break that center line of that Gaussian channel, which is pinning it down to the floor right now, and hence break the POC on the volume profile, right? Break all these important indicators of resistance. It's likely to either break that to the upside and start moving towards the top of the range itself, or break downwards and start the catastrophe by the end of February, literally within days. So don't fall asleep. Don't, go into hibernation. Something big is coming on Bitcoin, and it's quite likely to happen by the end of this month. Guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I implore, whatever the word is, I implore, I think is the word. I implore you to check out the Bitfinex or BitGet exchanges if you want a good exchange, which you should want, by the way. Not to tell you what to do, but you really should. Bitfinex and BitGet, they're my picks for you. I reached out to them for partnership. They did not reach out to me. Bitfinex is global, non-KYC, never been hacked before, hundreds of trading pairs, very, very good stuff all around the board. I use it personally daily. And then BitGet, I use as well, and I've used that for years. It's a very reputable exchange, top 5 in trading volume on a very consistent basis in comparison to other exchanges. So it's very well known and very much used on a very major level across the world here, except for the USA. So if you're from the USA, Bitfinex is your pick. Guys, with my links down below, you'll get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life on either of these exchanges. So every single buy and sell you make on either of these exchanges, if you sign up with my link, you'll get that 15% trading fee discount. You're saving literally thousands of dollars in the long term with that link. So go ahead and do that. It helps me out a lot as well. So it's an added bonus. Guys, again, the last thing I'll mention, I shouldn't say again, I didn't mention at the start, but the last thing I'll mention is my VIP group on Telegram. I post altcoin trading signals 4 times a week on VIP. If you're interested in getting those altcoin trading signals, you can check them out. You also get access to a group chat where you can discuss the market with 160 other VIPs. Very influential, very insightful stuff going on over there. And you've got the trading results, fully transparent. Check them out if you want to check them out before you join. I've got them there so you can do that. Cheers, guys. Have a good day.